We are back with Dr. Grant Mullen, and he's helping us navigate the reality that many battle with mental health and how, with God's help and with the great science that we have, we can find our freedom. So, Dr. Mullen, a lot of people also struggle with fear, anxiety, and worry. And so, why do you think that is? And what do you think the pandemic has done to those things?
Yeah, well, the reason that so many people struggle with fear, worry, and anxiety is number one, low serotonin levels. In other words, anxiety is just another thought you can't shut off that you don't want. And so depression and anxiety are just two sides of the same coin. So we know that 20% of the population has a low serotonin level. So 20% minimum is struggling with those thoughts. But the reason why the pandemic's made it so much worse and so much more acute is, yes, certainly isolation, but it's the sense of uncertainty that you can't control it. And you see, fear comes, the fear and lack of control, they go together. And also, too, the COVID is an invisible enemy, and you don't know where it is. And so it's very hard to protect yourself, especially in the early months. And so it's an invisible enemy that seemed to be winning, and it's keeping us restricted. And it just, there's so much uncertainty, and you don't know when it's going to end. And so it has just fed anxiety, even in people with normal serotonin levels. And it's so discouraging because, wave after wave. So this has been extremely difficult on the people with normal serotonin level, but certainly if you're vulnerable with serotonin, it's really tipped the scales.
Oh, that is so good, because I agree. I think uncertainty is a great enemy. And then added to that, you create a future hypothetical that may never come to pass. And so even in the narrative in our culture, right, there's all these fear narratives about what could happen or is going to happen. And it's not even really based in truth. And so as followers of Jesus, we need that certainty that he brings, which is really just a really great insight. And I'm also fascinated. You talk a lot about serotonin. So is there different ways that people can increase that in their life?
Well, actually not. It's strictly, it'd be the same as how do you increase insulin levels, or how do you see better without glasses? It's something outside of your control. But fortunately, we have medications that can do it for you. So I like to think of it that taking medicines like antidepressants for your serotonin level is no different than wearing glasses if you're short-sighted or far-sighted. That's for blurred vision. Medicines are for blurred thinking. It's really that simple.
Thank you for saying that. I think that is so helpful. And you also say in your book that pain is a motivator. Now, I'm really curious about that. What do you mean by that?
Well, no one changes unless they have a good reason to, because we love our comfort zones. So why, if it's working for you, why would you change? The only reason to change is if you're in pain, or you're somehow uncomfortable, or you want a different situation. And so I found in mental health and in counseling, pain is the greatest motivator, because no one does anything unless there's some sense of urgency. And so so I look for people who are in pain, because they're the ones who are most likely to take action.
Well, I love this, because I use the analogy of the warning lights on your dashboard. If a warning light goes off, you don't go, oh, the car's junk. You just go, oh, I got to deal with something in my life. And so if you feel pain, I love that idea. It just means that God maybe is trying to point out something that you can attend to, and with his help, find healing and restoration.
Yeah, actually, that is such a good point, because most Christians often think that, oh, I'm in pain, it must be a demon.
Yes.
Well, in fact, it could be God actually saying, I need to get your attention because you need to grow if you're going to reach your destiny.
Right. And I think just even that mental switch in your mind, because again, it's really easy, right, to default to the negative. It's an attack or whatever. And it may be, we're not dismissing that. But sometimes it's actually an opportunity into freedom. And God's just trying to get your attention. I really love that. Now, in your book called Emotionally Free, it talks about some healing steps. So can you just briefly summarize what those are for those watching and they're going, boy, I really need some help right now?
Well, humans have three parts: the body, soul, and spirit in Thessalonians. And each of these three parts have a huge impact on how you think, feel, and relate to others. And if you want to be free, the way the Bible talks about being free, you have to address all three parts. You can't just address one or even two and expect to be free. So to be free, that means you have to have thought control. And so the three parts, so body refers to physical conditions that affect how you think, feel, and relate to others. So that's the mental health conditions we're talking about today, like low serotonin. So if you want to be free and to walk in freedom, you need to correct that if it's a problem. And then in the spirit realm, the enemy wants to mess you up. He wants to put his thoughts into your mind. He wants to distract you and discourage you. You need to know your spiritual authority so that you can recognize a dark voice and stop it. And then the third is you need to have a healthy soul. So that's mind, will, and emotions. And your soul is really your personality. And your personality is shaped by the events of your past and the lies that you believed about those events or the conclusions you made about those events. And that all fills your emotional baggage. And so all three of these have a huge impact. Your emotional baggage really affects your personality. And so all of them affect how you think, feel, and relate to others. So if you want to be free, you have to address all three. And so in my book, I just walk people through, here's how to assess each of the three parts, and here's how you take steps to resolve them. And then we've taken it all now online. We have an online course that actually walks people through that step, all those steps through short videos.
Yeah, that is great. And I think you're right. I think if people are struggling in one of those three areas, there is help. And I think in our culture also, we're afraid to ask for help. And so I think if someone is watching and you are struggling with that, we're there for you. And I just want you to know that if you need prayer for anything that you've heard today, we're also here for you. You can call us at 1-855-759-0700, and someone would love to pray with you. Or if you want to get Dr. Mullen's book, which is a great resource, just go to our website and that will be made available to you. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Mullen. That was so helpful.
Nice to be with you.
Yeah, have an amazing day.